On this episode of Northwest Outdoors, there is plenty to see and do on Princess Royal Island in Canada's British Columbia. Visit the beautiful King Pacific Lodge for some heli-hiking and exciting coho salmon fishing.
We're going to work our way up this ridgeline, up to the summit of this ridgeline that we call Ice Lake Ridge, because about a month ago this lake was totally covered in ice.
Yeah, you got to reel him up, reel him up,
reel him up.
Quick, 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 quick.
He'll just go away. That hook came out just that easy. Yeah. He's a great looking fish. We're going to turn you loose, guy. You can go back down there.
Nice and silver.
Also, check out an artist that can make you an exact copy of your trophy catch. This is your Northwest Outdoors.
But then slowly I'll fade up to just the center portion of the
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. Subaru believes that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. And by Alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at Alltrek.com. And by Energy Northwest, providing electricity for the Pacific Northwest today and for our future. You too can help provide electricity for our future by reducing your use of electricity today. Remember, conserve whenever possible.
Stretching as far as the eye can see, the majestic mountains of Canada's western British Columbia can be quite exhilarating. Now mix in viewing them by helicopter, and you have a formula for an unforgettable experience. The rugged terrain of Princess Royal Island and the mainland of BC is a mix of snow-capped peaks and heavily forested valleys. Visitors to this area are treated to scenes of mountaintop lakes and untouched rocky bluffs throughout this mountainous region. Princess Royal Island is also home to King Pacific Lodge. After flying to Prince Rupert by commercial jet, a floatplane flies right to the lodge, and from there the adventure begins. Northwest Outdoors is here to spend a few days on this floating lodge nestled in Bernard Harbor. Offering more than traditional guided fishing, King Pacific is on the leading edge of lodges that offer unique eco-tours by helicopter. Kayaking, wildlife viewing, and hiking are becoming much sought-after activities in the destination resort industry. You're on board with helicopter pilot Paul Tozak and adventure guide Norm Hahn, and their destination, a remote mountaintop. There, Tozak will unload his passengers, leaving them for a few hours to hike and explore areas rarely touched by humans. And the view from here is nothing short of spectacular. This is looking north up the Inside Passage. Vancouver Island is on the left.
We've just landed at 4,000 feet elevation, and what we're going to do is we're going to work our way up this ridge line, up to the summit of this ridge line that we call Ice Lake Ridge, because about a month ago this lake was totally covered in ice, and the ice has just come off. There's still a few icebergs that are left over there. We've also explored the other side of this ridge, which you can see on the far side with that real nice snowfield over there. The last hike I did up there, we started from the summit and worked our way all the way down that ridge line. Gorgeous views of the Coots River and the Coots Valley on the other side. We worked right down to where you can see the water pouring out, where a little bit of snow is there, and there's about probably a 2,000-foot waterfall that drops off down into the Coots Valley. And then from there we worked our way up this ridge line.
This is Han's office. He is in charge of the adventure tours for the lodge.
We have a number of hikes here that we can do, whether it's by helicopter or by boat, that basically can cater to a wide range of hikers. We have a number of hikes that are great for families. Then the kids can come up, very gradual hikes, and it can range from that to a little bit more extreme hikes. And what's nice with the helicopter is the versatility that we have with our hiking here, and we can drop you off on a summit and hike down, or we can make the hike a little bit more challenging and work from a low elevation up to a summit peak. And really it can, we have a number of hikes that can accommodate all types of hikers.
Although this is mid-September and the snow is almost gone, the vegetation at this elevation is quite unique. Old mountain hemlock trees and lupine are stunted because most of the year this ridgetop is pounded with high winds and is under 20 to 30 feet of snow.
This whole area is basically known as the coastal temperate rainforest, but more specifically on this island you have basically two zones. The zone from sea level up to about 1,500 feet is called the coastal western hemlock biogeoclimatic zone. And then once you get above tree line, there is what's known as the mountain hemlock geoclimatic zone, and each of those zones have specific trees and plants that have adapted to those elevations. What's really cool about this hike is that, as you can see, we were walking on rock. Now you get to these snow fields here where the snow is still left over, because you get huge amounts of snow up here, probably 20 to 30 feet. And so a lot of this snow is left over. And yeah, it's good for snowball fights with families. One of the things that a lot of guests don't really understand is basically how remote this area is. Just because we're brought up in a helicopter and you've got a guide with you and things of that sort, you feel quite comfortable. But if you're to take the helicopter away, then you're probably a week away and a lot of swimming to get back to the lodge. Basically, we're in the middle of nowhere right here on the mainland BC. Hey ladies, there's a mountain goat over there on the cliffside over there. Look at how sheer that is, though. It just drops off. And this chunk's gonna go. You can see how it's cracked.
The diverse landscape of this part of British Columbia can only be appreciated by viewing it from a helicopter. With the lodge only 20 minutes away, pilot Tom Zach can whisk his passengers right to the dock in time for dinner. Miles from the nearest neighbor, this floating lodge in Bernard Harbor makes a nice retreat from the rugged outside world. The only sounds that can be heard in this quiet little corner of British Columbia are the echoes of stories from that day's adventure. And some guests decide that the day's activities aren't over until the sun sets completely behind the nearby hillside. The spectacular scenery here is a close second to the incredible wildlife that seems to be there at every turn. Between watching bald eagles preening themselves to sea otters frolicking for a bite of salmon, sometimes just leaving the lodge is hard to do. On this day, some guests decide to explore the area by kayak, looking for black bears. Northwest Outdoors fishing host Hobart Manns is here for the Co-ho salmon bite. Positioned just minutes by boat from the lodge, the BC coast offers many coves and inlets to fish, as well as quick access to outside ocean waters as well. Before going on board with Hobart and fishing guide Wayne Bowles, this is a good chance to learn more about the uniqueness of the lodge that floats.
Is this one of the biggest floating lodges in BC?
To my knowledge, in terms of square footage, it's probably one of the biggest ones, yes.
In size, how many square feet does this facility have?
A livable space, we have about 15,000 square feet, and then there's another 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, what is referred to as back of the house support facilities, where we have the generators and water purification, sewage and all those things that you need to run a facility in such a remote area.
Actually, you've got a floating city.
Pretty much, yes. We do all of our own, from water to sewage to garbage.
Now, you don't leave it here in the wintertime, do you?
No, it travels up the coast, actually. We are, at the end of the season, we tow it to Prince Rupert, and it is stored in Prince Rupert in an area that is well protected. And the tow takes about 18 to 24 hours, depends a bit on tides, depends a bit on winds.
Inside the building, I've noticed a great diversity of woods. Are they local? Where'd they come from?
Yeah, all the wood that we used in the construction of the building for framing and for finishing are from British Columbia. What you see mostly is the finishing woods, and in there we have western red cedar, yellow cedar, we have hemlock, we have fir, we have pine, so it's quite diverse.
Diversity is certainly the name of the game for this lodge. From heli-hiking to sport fishing, this is the location to do both. With the weather producing steady rain, resort guide Wayne Bowles is anxious to show Hobart some of the nearby fishing opportunities.
Wayne, we're about by my guess, we're 1.5 miles or so from King Pacific Lodge this morning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've headed north out of the lodge. We're in what we call Whale Channel, and we're fishing this one particular area because we know it's good. There's a lot of coho here, but we're not far from the lodge. We don't have to be, and there's a lot of fish here, so hopefully we'll get some for you this morning. This particular area right here is fished by the commercial fishermen as well as us. They're especially in here for things like pinks and chums in the early part of the year. Certainly not coho because they don't do that anymore, but we're catching a lot here right now, so hopefully we'll get you some.
We're really in a pristine part of British Columbia because I don't think that there's the nearest anything from here by land or air is what, 25 to 50 miles?
About 20 miles from here. There's a native village called Hartley Bay, and that's the closest place. The closest settlement, if you will, is Kitimat, which is about 40 miles from here, maybe 45 tops. But all of our traffic in here is either by boat or float plane, or it's the only way we can get in here. This is called the Great Bear Rainforest, named after the Commodore bear, which the natives call the spirit bear. We're very fortunate to have him here. Here, this is Princess Royal Island right here, and it has a good population of them, as Kermode bears go, because there's not many of them, but it just makes this part of the area just that much more special in that we have them.
We got one on. 60 feet down, we got it hooking, and this fish is hooked up pretty good. You're using a 4/0 hook, which we talked about earlier, and it's a Siwash style, but they're barbless.
That's right.
And these coho love to get out there and just do a lot of jumping and turning and twisting. If you let up the pressure just a little bit too much, they'll do a flip or a twirl or whatever, and that's going to be gone. Beautiful fish. And like we say, they go crazy and do a lot of turning, but if you take that pressure off that hook, he's going to throw it.
That's right.
Come on, baby. We got this one wrapped up. We
He's
talked
wrapped
about
up.
it.
We lassoed him.
We got him lassoed. See how they just want to turn right up on that line? That's terrible.
There
but
he is.
Now he's undone. Oh. He's going to do a lot more flipping. A lot of flipping out there. But that 4/0 hook will stick him good and doesn't do a lot of damage, but you do have to keep some pressure on him. If we can get this fish up, get a good look and hold him up here,
Yeah.
Wayne, that fish has still got a lot of power. He does not like it up here. He does not like it. Come on. I thought we just went through it. There he goes into the flip and turn mode. Let's see if I can bring him over there this time. He won't be quite so hot. It's coming towards you. You got it, Wayne?
Yeah, got him.
All right, I'm off slack. That hook came out just that easy.
Yeah.
He's a great looking fish. We're going to turn you loose, guy. You can go back down there.
Nice and silvery.
What, you say
Yeah,
8?
he's average. He probably run right around 8 pounds, maybe 9.
He's a dandy.
He's
Maybe
going to go
gone.
now.
He's gone.
Yeah, there he goes. There's something there.
Is he still there, Wayne?
Okay,
Not
we got it.
anymore. It's doing some running on you there.
Right down through the narrows. There's a lot of fish in here right now. Ah, there he is.
Ooh,
Ah,
that's
nice
a little
fish.
crazy. I do like that single action gear.
They're not called knuckle busters for nothing, though. Just try and keep them off of that downrigger wire. What we're using here is a green flasher, a hotspot flasher, and a hoochie. This particular hoochie is blue and white. We're working real well. We earlier in the year we used a lot of cut plug herring, but this year we had problems getting herring for the sport fishery, and we went to hoochies, and we find them real effective. One of the problems, of course, with herring is that when you got a lot of coho like this, they'll drive you crazy bringing that downrigger up and down. So the hoochie's much better. We get a lot more fishing time in this way. Swim grid.
What we're going to do here, Wayne's going to step over here on the edge a little. We're going to bring him up close, and you just put one end of the gaff in the bend in the hook and lift up. That barbless hook will slip
Okay,
right
just
out.
give us a little more line and then lift him higher. Okay, now just lift high and bring him towards me. That's it.
Commercial release here. I know he's done this before.
That fish is
Just
probably
get him
about
lay out
10,
there.
12 pounds, this guy.
Perfect.
And there he is. He's off and gone to spawn-
Sometimes that's
spawn
easier
something.
than using a pair of pliers because you don't have to get as close to the fish.
You're exactly right.
So we'll
And it
rig
comes
this up.
off so easy with barbless hooks. And
That was kind of funny. You could see him nibble, 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 and he came back and he jumped on that hoochie.
yeah, you got to give them time sometimes. Other times they just take her and run, but you just kind of got to wait for them.
That's a funny name for a lure. They call it a hoochie, and actually it's a plastic or a rubber skirt over some mylar on a barbless, probably a 3/0 hook, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's a 4/0.
4/0.
But it's, yeah, and we put a little bit of silver on it when we're on these coho inside there, because coho like silver, right?
Yep. They look like herring. You did that one
And this
at
one
40
here was
feet
at
or
60 feet too, which is quite deep really, but that's where we found them, and so that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, you're going to reel them up, reel them up, reel them up. Quick, 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 quick.
You'll just go away.
Yeah, he's there.
It's still there. Wayne just hooked up with another fish. We'll do that.
Where they're at, right here, eh?
Yep, pretty close. Black line. Ooh, there you go, Wayne. He's all yours.
Another nice fish. All
You
right,
got
this
yours,
time,
I
buddy.
lost mine.
Ah, we got him.
Got one biting out there. Another one of those coho from up here. Perfect. You should be able to just slide that right out like that. The black mouth inside tells us Chinook, is that right?
Yeah.
Fish, 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 fish. Oh, he's still there. Surprise, surprise.
I'll get your downrigger.
Ah, do love it when they do that. Love it. Oh, we're coming, we're coming. Oh, Wayne, you got work for hit the downrigger.
Go ahead.
We got a
Ross.
spare rod, little guy over here.
Well, maybe this is a double.
Come get that fish. Jaws 1 and 2. Oh, come on. Lots of splashing. That one just is out. You sure you didn't get a Chinook?
Could be.
I mean, he normally should be down. This one's hog-tied.
Whoa.
Oh, don't do that.
Ah!
One flip and he came off.
Fishing with barbless hooks and single-action reels can make for exciting sport fishing. Stay tuned for scenes from Part 2 at King Pacific Lodge in a moment. But first, this show ends with a visit to a special kind of outdoor artist. More and more anglers are opting to release their big catch and preserving the memory with exact reproductions. That's where Steilacoom, Washington artist Luke Filmer comes in. Filmer runs Blackwater Trading Company out of his house and specializes in reproducing in detail any sized fish a customer orders.
I specialize in fiberglass fish reproductions. These are renditions of trophy-sized fish for salmon fishermen both in Alaska, also here in Washington State, and also trout fishermen as well.
The process begins by getting as much information from the angler as possible. From there, Filmer can order the raw mold.
It's a cast, a fiberglass cast of a fish that's been molded, and whatever fish they catch, whatever the size, the length or girth, that type of thing, I can match that right down to pretty close to down to a ½ inch, if not right on. And then from their photograph, I paint in the colors. I put the colors in and hand paint all the scales. Also using different unique pieces of driftwood and that kind of thing, I can create kind of a habitat scene also to give the fish more of a lifelike look. I don't consider it taxidermy at all. I think it's more artwork, really. It's something that you know, I use from my creativity. I'm able to put together, you know, a piece of artwork that is, you know, a flowing form of this fish alive in its habitat. When you do a fish, you want to have that pupil cocked down just slightly, like that. That's a live fish. If that pupil is straight on, call that a 1,000-yard stare. That's a dead fish. But if you just bring it down, you see that life come into that fish all of a sudden? You know, when we do visit these places, particularly when you do go fishing and have good luck, it's because, you know, the area that you're in, usually the best fishing is always in the most beautiful places. And to be able to enjoy that, you know, and preserve that memory with something like a reproduction like this, knowing that you release that fish and that gene pool will be recouped every year and get better and better and leave nothing but footprints.
Luke used to be in the retail business a few years ago. Now he works full-time promoting his fish reproductions. Spending 20 to 30 hours to complete each fish and many days on the road at sportsman shows, he doesn't have to look far for his motivation.
I think what I enjoy the most about this profession is the satisfaction on the guy's face when he comes to pick it up. I mean, talk about job satisfaction. When he walks in the door and sees his fish and it all comes back to him, he's just, I mean, he's as happy as when he caught that fish. I think it's just great because I can totally relate, because I love fishing too. So there's a lot of inspiration for me in a lot of different things. You know, the satisfaction of the client, you know, seeing that finished product, and the final work. So when you catch a big fish like this and you've got, you know, your camera with you, certainly hold that up and get, you know, several good photographs of it. There really is not a whole lot of reason to kill it, being that, you know, this is going to breed some pretty incredible offspring. You know, a fish like this is not a hatchery fish, this is a wild fish. And its gene pool is just, you know, an incredible fish. And if this fish is allowed to breed and spawn and reproduce, well, in the years to come, you're just going to have more and more of them. And that's what we need to do. Here's a little bit before, and there's a little bit after.
Go online with Northwest